Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Think Out Loud. Today I'm joined by Mojan. All right, she's from Iran, and we're going to touch on mental health, suicide, and depression. If you don't mind, just give the viewers a little introduction about yourself.
For sure. My name is Mojan. I'm from Iran. I am 22. I go to SMU. I used to play rugby. I played 1 year for SMU, like unofficially, and I used to play in high school, and that's my favorite sport, and I am in sciences right now.
Yeah. All right. So when we talked over the phone for the first time, you told me that you moved here when you were 10, right?
Yes.
So under what circumstances did your family move to Canada?
Parents wanted us to come here for just a better lifestyle. Back home right now everything's a little tense because of the government. There's not a lot of opportunities for women out there right now. If we're getting real, the country's like almost at the poverty line where the government does not want to share with the rest of the people. And back when I was very young, it's when it was like really starting out and things were really, really hitting a turning point. Right now, things are pretty much as bad as they can be. And if I think about it, I don't think I've been back home since I was in grade 7. I don't even know how old I would have been, but I mean, I'm in like my 3rd year university now, so it's been a very long time. And my mom just didn't want me specifically to grow up in an environment where women don't have the same type of opportunities and are bound by cultural, societal, governmental restrictions like that.
Yeah. All right. My next question is, did you experience any cultural shocks when you moved to Canada?
I did. Basically, we're not tan all throughout the year. We do have winter back home. It snows and everything. We have all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
So in the winter, we do get more fair, and in the summer, obviously, we tan like crazy. So when I came here, I didn't understand that there was a difference between my white passing privilege and everyone else's. I very quickly learned that at the time, even though I look white and I'm white passing, because of my accent back in the day and me not really knowing how to speak English, there was genuinely a difference between each one of these kids that I was in class with or went to school with, and where their placement was, where my placement was. And it almost seemed like they were placed above me, not expressively by the teachers or anything like that, but just like everything, just themselves being very cliquey, the teachers treating me differently. I mean, now everyone just thinks I'm white, so I have that type of privilege now, but back then, even as a kid, subconsciously I understood that there was a certain something about these other kids that I wanted to have, and I wanted that, and I wanted to be friends with a certain type of girl, or I had a crush on a certain type of guy. But I was very lucky because the school I went to when I came to Canada was actually very diverse compared to the high school that I went to, and I'll later on talk about my experience throughout high school and everything, and I think that did really play a factor in that as well, and not being in a diverse environment where I get to see everyone else's different points of view and get to like meet different people, talk to different people. But just growing up, it was, before I found my real friends, I was just after this like thing that these other kids had that I didn't, and at the time I didn't understand that it was their whiteness.
Next question. So if you had stayed in Iran, how different would your life have been?
I think I would have been a lot more restricted. I would have been tied down to this man that I would have had an arranged marriage to, because women can't necessarily do anything by themselves back home. They can't move out. It's not as restrictive as anywhere like in the Middle East, because Iran is a part of Asia and we are next to the Middle East, and a lot of people do just group us in there, which is completely fair. But I would have been definitely tied down a lot more and restricted with just my schooling, how I dress, how I talk, what I eat, who I hang out with. And I think if I really put myself back home right now in this very moment,
Yeah.
it would have been a lot more dangerous because they have a lot more COVID cases. They are, I don't believe they have any plan for vaccines or anything like that. Like I said before, people are really going through poverty and they are really having a hard time. So as much as I want to say this is what my life would have been like, I can't even imagine what it would have been. I would be wearing a hijab. That's the only thing I can imagine.
Did you ever wear it?
Yeah, actually, right before I moved here is when I hit the age of maturity for girls, and they have a whole ceremony in schools where they teach you how to pray, and they give you a hijab and like a prayer mat and everything like that, and like a little Quran. So I had to wear the hijab every time I went outside for I think a year or two when I was back home, but then we moved here.
All right. So that's introductions, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna move on now to the main subject, which is the discussion on depression and mental health. I would like you to share your story on how it all started.
Yeah. So the school I went to when I first moved here is a primary to grade 9 school. So basically, I came here when I was in grade 3 or 4, and the same group of kids that I had known pretty much, I want to say my whole life, were about to come to high school with me, and I just really wanted a different environment. I was like, I love these people to death. I know who my friends are. I know who I'm not friends with. I just know these people. I feel like I have nowhere to expand to, and I just wanted to basically remake my self-image. And I was like, you know what, I really can't do that with these people. I do really appreciate that I grew up with them, but they know the old me, and I'm trying to figure out the new me. Going to high school with the same kids, I was like, no, you know what, I really don't want to do that. And the opportunity actually came around when my family moved to the Bedford area. But the funny thing is, where our house is right out of bounds for both high schools, CPA and Halifax West. So I basically got to choose, and I chose to go to CPA, where I did not know anyone. I didn't really know anything about how the school worked or where it was or like how anything works, really. Not realizing that this is going to kind of play a factor later, that all these kids that are going to like this new high school now, the CPA high school, have also all grown up together. But to me, they were all new people, and that's all, just what I wanted, because I was trying to figure out who I was. And I was like, you know what, I can do that with new people. I can't really do that with these old people anymore. So I decided to go to CPA, and I wanted to do IB, and I wanted to do pre-IB, and had like a whole plan for like my high school like academic career. But it was really hard. It was a lot harder than I thought it would be to be there all alone, like not know anybody. Actually, no, I did know one person there.
Yeah.
Shout out to my friend Francisca. Okay. She also grew up with me, and she also went to CPA, and that did really help out a lot, and I still love her to death. But just like trying to, like, we weren't in the same classes, obviously, and things were changing, and like I'd never experienced a type of schooling schedule where like you don't necessarily have a home room, or like there's no like class that you go there first, and like your classes are always changing. Everything was just brand new. It did really take a toll out on me. I laugh a lot at my own pain. It's not necessarily that I think that if anyone else is going through it, that it's a funny situation. It's definitely not. But to me, it's funny because now that I've grown into a different situation, to me, when I look back, I just see myself in like a third person view, and to me that's why it becomes funny. But I remember like the first few months of grade 10, I would just go eat my lunch in the bathroom because all these popular kids would fill up our little cafeteria, and I was too scared to go and sit at a table where there's only like maybe one seat there. It was kind of like a bench table, so all these kids in like groups are like sitting down. And our high school, although it was relatively new, the interior was a lot smaller than, I want to say, Halifax West. So like there's basically, the kids pour out all over the school when it's lunchtime just to find a place to sit. They'll even sit on the ground somewhere just to eat in like a little cliquey group. But it did hurt me a lot that I was like, you know what, I'm like stressing, and this is like a new type of school, and now I'm like trying to do basically all these advanced classes. It was really taking a toll on me, and I wanted to switch back and go to Halifax West. And the funny thing is, the way fate works is that sometimes you want to go back, but the universe is like, no, this was actually the right choice. You're going to keep going down this path. Because when I tried to go back and reapply to switch to Halifax West, they told me that, oh, you know what, actually, because your house is out of bounds for the school, you can't really come here.
Is that a rule, or is it just...
It's more like oh, well, you know what, you're kind of out of bounds for this area. You should try and find a school where your house is in that same area, just for like buses and like other things like that. There is ways around it. You can use like a friend's address or anything like that, or you can be like, no, I really want to go here. I don't give a fuck. Like, I want the school. And they would be like, okay, well, we're gonna treat you as like an out of bounds student, and there's like a little bit more of a process for you to go through before you can attend the school. But the one thing was that because I was at the time so set on taking all these advanced IB classes, they told me that they didn't have any room for even one more student in their pre-IB classes. So if I went there, I would have to switch to just regular classes, regular high school. I was like, at the time, no, I really want this because it's going to help me later on for university and stuff. So you know what, I'll stay at CPA. And I ended up staying, and just like little by little, I met a very specific group of girls who were also new to the area, did not grow up with these people, because at the time I didn't know that all these kids at this high school grew up together the same way that Halifax West would have been for me. And that's why I didn't understand why I couldn't really find friends like that. It's because these people already know each other, and I would have to go out of my comfort zone to find a friend within that any sort of like group. I don't necessarily want to call them cliques because it makes it sound like a Mean Girl movie, and it wasn't. But it was just that I just felt very alone, and the stress of school and all these different things were slowly taking a toll out on me. And I was slowly starting to realize that I'm going through something in my brain and in my heart that I couldn't necessarily put into words. I didn't understand at the time that I was just going through a very long depressive episode, and that's how my anxiety came about. I am on anti-anxiety medication, but it's not necessarily something I take every day now. I don't even think I've refilled my prescription in a very long time, but it was something that I just knew I was sad. And there's like a certain feeling that goes along with just being sad or angry or whatever. It's almost like someone's squeezing your heart every time you think about a specific situation, or every time you wake up in the morning, or anything like that. And just going through all of that and trying to do school and like get good grades, and like when you're also going through a hard time, you almost become a people pleaser. Not that it's necessarily a bad thing, but it's just something that people should work on within themselves. Being a people pleaser makes you want to go out of your way to do something for a friend or for anybody else, where normally you would not want to, I guess, do those things. Like going out of your way to invite your friends over even though you're tired, or like, oh, your friend wants something, you kind of don't want to go back to this location to get it because you're already home or you're already somewhere else, but you do it anyway. And you just hold all those like extra comments that like, oh no, I don't want to. You hold those boundaries back and you don't show them to anybody because you think that, oh, within a second, all these things can be gone. My friends can be gone, like this relationship can be gone, we won't be like on good terms, whatever it is. When in reality, it's not like that, but it does really, when you put yourself in this little box, you can't see a way out of it. and you do all these little things that pretty much snowball and become what we call depression. Just going through all of those things is something that you really have to like sit down and try and work on yourself with, which is really, really hard because everyone's is busy with their own shit. Everyone has school or work or family or whatever it is. At the time, I had met these 3 other girls. We were a little group of 4 girls. And the funny thing is that I think I found the only other 4 girls that were not white or Canadian, and we all just became friends, and that was it. And then throughout the years, we did get a couple more people who were women of color or people of color, and were not just white. I mean, I don't want to say weren't Canadian, but they understood a little bit more outside this almost 99% white high school, because our behaviors are different than their behaviors and like what they want to do. So when I became friends with these girls, I really did think that there's like a light now. I have good friends, I have a good relationship with them, it's all good. But you don't realize how like these little things that you just experience just become like a photograph in your brain. On some level, everyone has a photographic memory, and me being surrounded by this whole different culture, I didn't understand why I suddenly wanted a guy's attention, or I was so after like a boyfriend, or like, you know, like to like, oh, like go to a party, like make out with somebody, or like drink, do drugs, like any of that. Not that necessarily they wouldn't have come around if I wasn't exposed to all of that, but just watching all these girls get this type of attention, or like dress a certain way, act a certain way, drive a certain type of car to school. Everyone there is very wealthy, is the thing. Everyone that went to CPA was a very, very wealthy white person who had certain privileges, which was like, oh, their parents let them just fly away with their friends to a different country for a March break or something like that, which would make me want it, which I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting it, but at the time I didn't understand it's not actually what I wanted. So me trying to go after these things was making me snowball again right after I'd already shaken off some of the heavy snow that was on my shoulders. So trying to like, oh, I had never had a first kiss, or like a boy had never tried like to talk to me or anything like that, made me want to put all this other stuff that I should really try and focus on, like school, my family, whatever, and go after people pleasing and not really setting boundaries like I needed. And that all of that started to snowball more and more and more, and school was getting harder. And now I'm in grade 11. I kind of want a job because I want money, and I don't really want to ask my parents anymore. So now I'm applying to work part-time at the mall, which I mean, I was very lucky and I got it. I was working at, I think it was Victoria's Secret. It was my first job, and my manager was fucking bitch. She was so mean, she was so rude, and she was all about the sales. She was hella old. I don't know who she's trying to sell bras to, but like you just can't. She was almost making this what should be an enjoyable experience and an educational experience, and was making it more stressful and more tense, and was making me not want to go in, and was making me dread my shifts and like whatever. And now that's on top of my school and all of that, and all of these things are new experiences. It's nothing that I'd ever done before. So to me, it's like, holy shit, like, is this what the world is going to be like? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like this is like the first few steps I'm taking to become an adult, and they're all so horrible. Like, I just do not like any of them. I really was like crying myself to sleep. I was really not eating because I really had self-image issues, where I was like, why can't I be a skinny little white girl like that? And at the time, so I mean, I don't know if you're going to be comfortable with this one, but I got really big boobs right in like middle school. So I had
Come on. Feel
I
free.
had, because I just the way I talk is funny. I had huge tits in high school, okay, huge tits, but they were saggy, and that was also like what was pressing on me about my self-image.
Yeah.
Like, why are these saggy? And just because my breasts were really big, my shoulders seemed a lot bigger, and my arms seemed bigger, and now suddenly my stomach is bigger, my thighs are bigger, and I have this sort of distorted self-image, and I can't even really see what I look like. My brain processes an image, and almost my emotions edit the image and make it look like something that it's not.
Yeah.
Now that is weighing on me. Like, oh, it's because I'm fat, no guy wants to talk to me. Oh, it's because I'm fat, I can't find a cute dress for like this occasion, or like do this with my friends. And I'm going on all these crazy diets trying to like lose some weight. And that also came about with my mom. No hate to her, but she really had some, I mean, she still does to this day, but she's working on it now.
Yeah.
Some like self-image issues that she projected onto me.
Yeah.
And not because it didn't come from a place of hate, but because I was a chubby baby, she was so scared that I would grow up with the same issues that she had.
Yeah.
But she would come about and do it with a way of anger, and almost like not poking fun, but just like it just seems like you're making an extra comment when you really don't need to. And to me, I always understood that my mom loved me, but I also understood that I'm fat. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like something that got implemented into me. So now there's school, work, all these other issues, and I'm getting in trouble with my family every single day because I'm trying to people please, and I want to hang out with my friends longer, or I want to do this with my friend, or I want to bring my friend here, or like whatever. And my parents are like, no, well, we don't want you, we told you no, like your curfew is at this time, like you can't go to this party, you can't wear this, whatever. But I'm doing it anyway because I'm like, you know what, my parents are going to be mad at me, but I don't care, they'll get over it.
Yeah.
I just want to please my friends instead of really clearly setting boundaries. And it never occurred to me that my friends also had certain boundaries in place that they would show me, but for some reason I just refused to show them those same boundaries. Like, if one of my friends could very easily to me say, oh, my mom said no actually, and I would totally understand because I would think, yeah, my mom says that too. But for some reason I would never say to her, oh, actually my mom said no, I can't. And this was before I knew how to drive, so I mean, it was a lot harder. I couldn't sneak out of the house or anything like that, but I would lie to them and say, oh, me and my friends are doing this, but really we're doing something else, we're going somewhere else.